Hi, welcome to our roundtable discussion for Always On. We call this the new abnormal, where we talk about recent events and how it's affected marketing and advertising. So let's start with Rick from a strategy and advertising marketing standpoint. What is the new normal? We're calling it the abnormal from what it used to be, let's say, not only some years ago, but also since COVID.
Well, it's really the new abnormal since COVID, right?
Yeah,
like
really.
Between the political season, COVID, marketers have been on their heels. Is that even the right word? It depends on, I guess what they
on
were.
On their butts, actually, is where they are.
On their butts. Since COVID started, there was the obviously immediate shutdown from almost every brand. Including national. Even national advertisers didn't know what to do because they were afraid to say anything relative. If they were happy and joyful, then that's not a play. And then it's been almost a year of that, right? And we watched the drop in advertising, not necessarily, at least on TV and broadcast and even radio, a bit of a pullback. I think marketers still don't know what to do. Even the Super Bowl, the big brands weren't all out on their creative. They were, a little bit reserved. A couple funny ones. So the new abnormal, I suppose we have to look at getting to what that means longer term. Mm-hmm. But we work a lot with regional brands and restaurants, and they're open, close, open, close. We're hoping for daylight from COVID, right? Vaccines. Let's go. And then now we have the new strains. Yeah. So we have this looking forward, this rough sea that's still rocking along. I don't think people know quite where to put their rudders in yet.
Yeah, it's so uncharted. I mean, it's the cliche that's out there now is we're in uncharted waters, and it's true. And I think what is there to do except use another cliche? Go with the flow. You just have to be nimble, right, through this process.
Yeah, I think, Bill, you've been encountering that with clients. Like, you've got to be flexible now, got to be willing to adapt.
More than ever. And that to a great extent, that's what we do. I mean, we're not a huge shop, obviously. We're able to be very nimble, and more than anything, I don't care who you are. And the next thing, and we didn't really talk much about it in the last session, but everything's local now. Where because of the staggered openings, closings, but even prior to COVID, everything to a certain extent, depending on what you're selling, of course, needed a local, and even hyper-local, but local regional approach. And again, that's what happens to be our expertise. But it's I said earlier about calibration. And about the need for, and you the word nimble, and how important it is. There really never has been one size fits all, but more than ever, everything has to be highly calibrated. Yeah.
Well, it's a good point. I mean, local. So one of the things that's happened over the last 9 months, especially the first 3 months of COVID, was that local information and local news spiked dramatically. Viewership-wise, and kind of some interesting stats, right? So we're always on the front edge of looking at digital connected TV. Those are the buzzwords, right? Those are in the daily marketing newsletters, and about attribution, how important these things are, and they're cool things. But an interesting deal locally is that local broadcast news spiked through the roof, and it's still spiking. So it's the local thing to do, and not just watching it on cable or on your broadcast, but people are going to the website. So they're going to here locally in LA, you're going to Channel 7, Channel 5, Channel 2 news websites to get updates, and then connecting the two together. So there's been this massive spike in regional local TV. Yeah. And even funnier, antenna sales. Let me put up an antenna.
On the house.
On the house sales have spiked over the last 9 months.
Really?
So
it was spiking prior to COVID, by the way. So the whole idea of cord cutters, cord nevers, unbundlers, blah blah blah. Well, the idea was that they're all shifting to nothing but digital and streaming. That's not the case. The fastest growing section of video consumership was over the air, antenna TV.
Wow.
Good old free,
Wow.
quote unquote, free antenna TV. So people who still want their local news, they still want local, in some cases, sports, and they don't want to have to pay one of the streaming bundles for it. Because you look at it, I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, we're in the business, so I stream virtually everything that's out there just to test it and know it and experience it. So I'm definitely paying a lot of money for various streaming services. I'm sure as heck not saving on cable. No matter what, they whoever they may be are going to find a way to get the money. So streaming's not cheaper by any stretch. People are going to wake up and have 3 or 4 or 5 streaming services, and it'll be probably about the same cost as what cable was for them.
Yeah, and to pick up on something that Rick said earlier, I'm on the creative and production side of things. There's no question that there's been a tempering of creativity in what I see on the air these days, and in what clients are asking us to do too. There's almost a fear of being too out there, too outrageous, too funny, too creative, I guess, for lack of a better word, because somehow we're not being sensitive to the tenor of the times with people being sick and dying from a pandemic. So we get that. So we have to take that into account whenever we come up with our creative. Although we still give them the creative ideas too. We have found that the mid-range, the moderately creative stuff is what they're going for. But the other thing that's happening too is there's been a tremendous increase in animation, special effects, compositing, the things that are not, you don't need a crew to put together. A location crew, a stage crew, because obviously there's all of these safety concerns. So there has been an interesting confluence of somewhat pulled back creativity, increased dependence on special effects and animation, and I must say, from what I've seen, an increased demand for traditional television commercials as well. We've done hundreds and hundreds of radio spots over the years, but very few these days, and it's all kind of shifted over into TV, and therefore the videos that fall from them. So repurposing content. Clients have become very value-oriented. They want the shoot once, use many times philosophy. They become hip to that, particularly the, I should say, the younger marketing people who are coming into vogue right now. So I guess to sum it up, we see some opportunities happening now with this new abnormal, but we also see some restrictions. And if we're smart, we go with the flow. We're nimble. We understand what a client needs, what the market is telling us, and we adjust accordingly.
And do our best to stay, very slightly ahead of it, if we can,
if possible.
and if the client is going to allow themselves to make that little step. To lead is not the right word, but I mean, we're not hearing a lot of the sad piano anymore, right?
Right.
From April, May, June.
People have gotten used to this being the new normal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Rick, before we wrap it up?
I think a quick combination of back to local and content, and how that even bigger entities, as Bill pointed out, if you're a large national retailer that's having difficulties, how do you restructure and reboot? And then as you downsize, how do you make that still work? And you could pick how many that are looking at bankruptcy. But even the successful ones now, it's a regional play. Right? What clothing is being sold right now on the East Coast is not what's being sold on the West Coast, right? And if you're in lawn care, it's different seasons, different periods across the nation. So it really is becoming localized. The news is localized. The content can be shaped localized, right? So you shoot and repurpose one time. You shoot on that particular location for the different arenas,
all these different uses,
right?
Yeah.
You get the main, we capture the main creative concept and then branch out the components from that. And then we have the tools to go regionally and reach our audience accordingly.
Which just underscores the very underpinnings of this particular organization, Always On. It's never been more important to be in front of people, in front of the audience, 24/7 on whatever touch points they're interested in, and to be always on.
Yep.
So that's going to wrap up our discussion of the new abnormal. Join us again next time when Always On explores other aspects of the new abnormal. See you then.